The Kordari had been silent for eons, their power lying dormant in the forgotten corners of the galaxy. For centuries, their presence was nothing more than a whisper in ancient legends, a myth passed down through the stories of the few who still remembered the time before their disappearance. Their world, a distant and desolate planet in the far reaches of the galaxy, was all but abandoned. Their ruins, buried beneath the shifting sands of time, remained untouched by the empires that had come and gone, forgotten by all but the most curious explorers. But now, something had stirred them, and they would no longer remain in the shadows. The galaxy, once calm and predictable, was now beginning to tremble. Deep within the forgotten ruins of Kordar, the ancient capital of the Kordari people, something awoke, a pulse, a signal, a call to arms. It was a subtle vibration, barely perceptible to most, but to those attuned to the forces of the universe, it was unmistakable. The Kordari were returning. The first sign came from the frontier worlds, those planets that bordered the ancient Kordari territories. The skies above them began to glow with strange auroras, colors never seen before, as if the very fabric of space was being twisted by an invisible force. Then came the whispers, the faintest tremors in the fabric of reality itself. A few brave souls ventured to Kordar, seeking to uncover the truth of what had happened, only to return with strange, incoherent tales of whispers in the wind and the sight of ancient structures that had once been thought lost forever. Factions across the galaxy, empire builders, scholars, and those hungry for power began to take notice. The first to arrive were the Dominion of Erthos, their fleets well known for their discipline and military might. They had heard the rumors, and like many before them, they sought to claim the power of the Kordari for themselves. If the Ancient Ones had returned, their power could turn the tide of the galaxy, reshaping the balance of power in an instant. But the Kordari were no simple people. They were ancient, their wisdom and knowledge vast beyond comprehension, and their power not to be easily claimed. For eons, they had hidden themselves from the eyes of the universe, watching as civilizations rose and fell, waiting for the right time to emerge. On the desolate world of Kordar, the ancient temple that had been dormant for millennia began to hum with energy. Deep beneath the surface, in the heart of the planet, the Kordari stirred. The air around the planet began to crackle with the raw power of the universe, drawing the attention of those who would dare to seek it. But the awakening would not be without consequences. Ambassador Sira Callan, a young and ambitious diplomat from the Galvan Confederacy, stood on the balcony of her office, overlooking the bustling capital of Erthos. Her gaze was fixed on the stars above, her mind focused on the strange events that were unfolding. The strange auroras in the sky, the disruptions in the hyperspace lanes, and now, the reports of strange energy readings coming from the Kordari system. Everything pointed to the same thing. "The Kordari are waking," she whispered to herself. The thought sent a chill through her. For decades, the Kordari had been nothing more than a myth, a whisper in the shadows. Now they were stirring, and the implications of their return were staggering. Her fingers brushed the surface of her desk, the holographic display flickering as it came to life. The image of the Kordari system appeared before her, the once dead world of Kordar now radiating with strange energy. She could feel the pull of it, even from this distance. She could sense the power that lay dormant there, waiting to be unlocked. "Sira!" a voice interrupted her thoughts. It was Jarnus, her trusted advisor and close friend. "The council is waiting for you." Sira glanced up, her brow furrowing. "I know, Jarnus, but this is more important than anything the council has to say. The Kordari are awakening, and we need to understand what that means before we make any decisions." Jarnus hesitated, his expression darkening. "I know you're right. But the council will not wait forever. They expect action." Sira turned back to the hologram, her mind racing. She had always been a diplomat, using words to solve problems. But this was different. This was a power that could change everything, and she knew that the galaxy would soon be caught in the whirlwind of the Kordari's return. "We can't let the Dominion or the other factions claim them first," Syrah said, her voice low but determined. "We need to send a message. If the Kordari have truly returned, then we need to be the ones to establish contact. We can't allow this power to fall into the wrong hands." Jarnus nodded. "I'll begin preparations immediately." Syrah's mind was already racing, formulating plans, anticipating the political moves of the Dominion and others who would inevitably seek to control the Kordari. The awakening of the Kordari was a moment of great power, but also of great danger. The galaxy was on the brink of something monumental, and she had to ensure that whatever came next, it wouldn't tear everything apart. She had no illusions about what was to come. The Kordari were not like any species the galaxy had ever encountered. They had their own agenda, and they would not be easily swayed. Factions would vie for control, alliances would be forged, and betrayals would unfold. The galaxy would learn the true cost of awakening the Ancient Ones, and Mara Callan, rogue diplomat, would do whatever it took to ensure the galaxy survived the reckoning. The stars above Erthos flickered in the distance, and Syrah knew that the galaxy would never be the same. The Kordari had returned, and they would reshape everything. Mara Callan stood in the command center of the Orion's Edge, a ship specially designed for diplomatic missions, as it hurtled through the darkness of space toward the Kordari system. The soft hum of the ship's engines provided a steady backdrop to the intensity of her thoughts. The political landscape was shifting beneath her feet, and every move she made would determine the galaxy's future. She had already informed the Galvan Confederacy's leadership of her plan, but as always, it was a delicate dance. The Council was wary of her independent actions, especially her decision to approach the Kordari directly. There were whispers about her audacity, about breaking the rules of diplomacy, but Syrah knew she had no choice. The galaxy was teetering on the edge of something enormous, and only by understanding the Kordari could they hope to avoid the chaos that was already starting to unfold. She walked over to the holographic console in front of her, which projected a rotating image of the Kordari system. The data readouts indicated the intense gravitational disturbances around Kordar. Something was definitely happening, something beyond her comprehension. "It's strange." Jarnus, her advisor, spoke from behind her, his voice a soft murmur. "The readings suggest their power isn't just a physical force. It's like they're resonating with the universe itself." Syrah nodded, her mind already at work. The Kordari were always attuned to the ancient powers. Their connection to the fabric of the galaxy runs deeper than any species we've encountered. If their awakening is tied to this energy, we're dealing with more than just a forgotten civilization coming back to life. We might be facing the resurgence of something much older. Jarnus seemed to share her concerns. "You're certain they won't just ignore us?" "No," Syrah replied, her voice firm. "If they truly are awakening, they won't remain hidden forever. We need to make contact before someone else does." Their discussion was interrupted as the ship's communication console pinged. A message had arrived, encrypted with a high-level security protocol. Syrah's eyes narrowed as she opened it, the message from the Dominion of Erthos. "Ambassador Callan," the voice of High Commander Altheron echoed in the room, cool and unyielding. "We understand your intentions, but we will not tolerate any further independent actions on the Kordari matter. The galaxy cannot be allowed to fall under the sway of an unknown power. The Dominion has already begun preparations to enter the Kordari system, and we strongly suggest you cease any negotiations with them." Syrah felt a knot tighten in her stomach. Altheron's words were clear. He intended to take control of the situation, and he would not let her interfere. The Dominion had always been a military force first, and a diplomat second. They would view the Kordari awakening as a potential weapon to be used, not as a mystery to be understood. She took a slow breath, replying with the calm demeanor she had perfected over years of diplomacy. "Hi, Commander. I understand your position, but this is not a military operation. This is an opportunity for peace, or war, depending on how we approach it. I intend to contact the Kordari, not as a threat, but as a fellow civilization seeking understanding. If you send your forces, you'll make the situation worse. I'm asking for time, Commander. Time to speak to them." There was a pause, then the cold reply. "You have 1 week, Ambassador. After that, we will act. And if you interfere, you will be held responsible." The transmission cut off abruptly, leaving Syrah with a lingering sense of unease. Altheron's words had been clear. The Dominion would not wait long. But she also knew that rushing in would be disastrous. The Kordari were not to be controlled. They were ancient beings, connected to powers no empire could wield. "We can't let them get there first," Jarnus said, reading her thoughts. "If the Dominion gets their hands on the Kordari, it will mean the end of any hope for peaceful contact. We have to move now." Syrah turned to him, her eyes flashing with resolve. "Prepare the team. We'll make our move tonight. But first, I need to gather information. The Kordari have always been elusive. I need to understand their true nature before we approach them. And if they're not the allies we hope they are, we need a backup plan." The ship's engines hummed again as the Orion's Edge prepared to jump into the Kordari system. The stakes were higher than ever. Syrah's instincts told her that there was something more to the Kordari than anyone could have guessed. Something ancient, something powerful. But she also knew that there were many who would try to exploit that power for their own ends, starting with the Dominion. Syrah stood at the edge of the observation deck, her gaze fixed on the stars ahead. The future of the galaxy was in the balance, and it would be her decisions and her diplomacy that would tip the scales. But the Kordari were not mere pawns to be moved in a game of galactic power. They were something greater, something that might change everything. And Mara Callan, the rogue diplomat, would be the one to find out. The stars outside seemed distant, cold, and indifferent to the unfolding events. But Syrah knew that even the cosmos was caught in the tides of change. The Kordari's awakening would not only shake the galaxy, it could reshape it entirely. As the Orion's Edge made the jump into the unknown, Syrah Callan braced herself. The real test had only just begun. The jump through hyperspace was a blur of color and light. Syrah Callan stood at the command center of the Orion's Edge, her gaze locked on the swirling hyperspace lanes outside the ship's viewports. The vast expanse of the Kordari system loomed just beyond the threshold, but a sense of dread gnawed at her. The further she ventured into the unknown, the more her sense of urgency and caution grew. The moment they entered the system, a strange, inexplicable calm settled over the ship. The crew, a mix of seasoned diplomats and security officers, went silent. Even the ship's AI seemed to stutter in its usual efficiency, struggling to process the overwhelming forces at play. "Entering Kordar orbit in 3 minutes, Ambassador," Thorn, her trusted security officer, said from the helm. His voice was steady, but Syrah could hear the edge of tension in it. "Understood," she replied, though she wasn't entirely sure she was ready for what lay ahead. "Prepare the diplomatic teams. We'll land on Kordar. We need to establish contact, and quickly." The ship slowed as it emerged from hyperspace, the Kordari system stretching before them like a deep, forgotten ocean. The planet Kordar loomed ahead, a distant, desolate world wrapped in swirling clouds of red and gold, its surface marked by the scars of millennia. Its landscape was a broken tapestry of ancient ruins, craters, and massive stone structures, remnants of the Kordari's forgotten civilization. "Looks like no one's been here in centuries," Thorn muttered, scanning the desolate world. "What makes you think they'll welcome us now?" Syrah turned to face him, her face unreadable. The Kordari have always been known to withdraw into isolation. But something has changed. We have to assume they are aware of our presence by now. The ship descended into the planet's atmosphere, the weight of history pressing down with every passing moment. As the Orion's edge approached the surface, Sierra felt a sudden, almost imperceptible tremor in the ship's hull, an ancient force stirring, echoing through the very air around them. "Hold on," she whispered, her eyes narrowing. There was something in the air, a current, a resonance. It was as if the planet itself was reaching out to them. The ship landed with a soft thud on the barren ground, the engines powering down as the craft settled into place. Outside, the landscape was as harsh and unforgiving as expected, but Sierra noticed something different this time. The very air seemed to hum, vibrating with an unseen energy. "Let's go," she ordered, her voice firm. "We need to make contact with whoever is here, and I don't want to be caught off guard." Her team assembled quickly, each member clad in their standard-issue gear, diplomatic cloaks, communication devices, and defensive weapons, though no one truly expected violence. They weren't here to fight, they were here to negotiate, or at least that was the plan. The door to the ship opened with a hiss, and the team stepped out onto the desolate surface of Kordari. The wind was bitterly cold, and the distant mountains loomed ominously against the sky, their jagged peaks reaching like ancient sentinels. The ground beneath them was cracked and dry, dotted with ancient ruins that spoke of a civilization long gone. But even in this desolation, there was a sense of something watching them, waiting for them. Sierra could feel the weight of it. The Kordari were here, and they were not to be underestimated. They moved cautiously, their steps light on the cracked ground, as they approached the heart of the ancient city. The air around them seemed to warp and shimmer, distorting their surroundings like heat waves on a hot desert afternoon. The ruins around them were vast, stretching far into the distance, but there was no sign of life, at least not in the conventional sense. "How long has it been since anyone was here?" Jarnus, her advisor, asked quietly as they moved forward. His eyes were wide with both awe and caution. "Centuries," Sierra replied, her gaze fixed on the ancient structures ahead. "But these ruins are alive, in their own way. The Kordari are not just a people, they are bound to the very fabric of the galaxy itself. We must tread carefully. What they awaken will not be a simple thing." As they approached what appeared to be the central temple of the Kordari civilization, a sudden shift in the air seemed to freeze them in place. It was as if the very atmosphere thickened around them. The ground beneath their feet hummed with a low, resonating vibration, and Sierra could feel it deep in her bones. "The relics are here," she murmured almost to herself. "They're still here, and they're waiting." Just as she spoke, a strange, ethereal figure appeared at the entrance of the temple, stepping from the shadows with a fluid grace that defied explanation. The figure was tall and slender, their skin dark and luminous, radiating an otherworldly glow. Their eyes, large and piercing, glowed a soft, shimmering blue, as if reflecting the stars themselves. "Welcome, Ambassador Callan," the figure said in a voice that resonated through the air, carrying both power and ancient wisdom. "You seek us, and we have been waiting for you." Sierra's heart skipped a beat. She had expected many things, but the figure before her was something beyond what she had imagined. This was a Kordari, and their power was palpable. "You have awakened," Sierra said, her voice steady despite the awe she felt. "We need your help. The galaxy is at a crossroads, and we believe your knowledge and power could be the key to saving it." The Kordari figure regarded her with an expression that was almost unreadable. "We have been dormant for eons, Ambassador, but the time for silence has passed. The galaxy's imbalance is no longer something we can ignore. We will offer you knowledge, but know this: what we give may change the course of history forever. And once you accept, There will be no turning back. The words hung in the air, heavy with consequence. Syrah felt a chill run down her spine. The galaxy had long been at war with itself, and now, standing before an ancient power like the Kordari, the truth was clear. The galaxy was on the brink of something far greater than any conflict or war. The Kordari were the beginning of something new, something far beyond diplomacy. And there was no going back. "Then let us begin," Syrah said, her voice unwavering. "The galaxy needs you, and I will do whatever it takes to ensure that we can all move forward together." As she spoke those words, she realized they were not just a plea for peace. They were a call to something much greater. The Kordari had awoken, and with their awakening came a storm that would reshape the galaxy forever. The first step had been taken, but the true test was just beginning. The ancient Kordari temple stood before them like a monument to a forgotten era, its towering spires reaching toward the heavens, its surface carved with intricate symbols that seemed to pulse with life. The figure, the Kordari ambassador, had led Syrah and her team into the heart of the temple, a place where time itself seemed to stand still. The air within was thick with energy, charged with an ancient power that hummed beneath the ground, rising to meet them. "Welcome to the sanctum," the Kordari said, their voice as soothing as it was ominous. "This is where our history resides, where our power has been guarded. For millennia we have watched over the fabric of the galaxy, ensuring its balance. And now, as you seek our aid, you must understand that our gifts come at a price." Syrah's heart raced. She had known this moment would come, the moment when diplomacy would give way to something more, something beyond words and negotiations. But the weight of the Kordari's offer was heavier than she had imagined. "I understand," she said, her voice steady but tinged with the weight of what lay ahead. "But we need your knowledge. The galaxy is on the brink of chaos. The Dominion, the Combine, all of them are ready to tear each other apart. If we don't find a way to stop it, we'll all burn." The Kordari nodded slowly, their glowing blue eyes never leaving Syrah's. "And you believe that we can stop this? The galaxy's fate is not so easily altered, Ambassador. You are asking us to intervene, to shape events in ways you cannot yet understand. The balance we have maintained is delicate, and if it is disrupted, there will be consequences." Syrah stepped forward, her voice unwavering. "I don't believe it will be easy, but I believe you can help. You are ancient, and your power is beyond anything the galaxy has ever known. We have no time left to debate. We need your help now." For a long moment, the Kordari figure was silent. Then, with a soft sigh, they spoke again. "Very well. But know this, Ambassador Callan, the price of our intervention is not something you may be prepared for." Syrah frowned, but before she could ask what that price might be, the ground beneath them trembled. A deep, resonating hum filled the temple, as though the very heart of the planet had stirred in response to their conversation. From the walls, energy began to coalesce, gathering into a brilliant sphere of light in the center of the room. The sphere expanded and contracted with every heartbeat, growing brighter until it filled the chamber with a blinding glow. As the light dimmed, the Kordari figure gestured to the floating sphere. "This is the heart of Kordar. It contains the knowledge and power of our people, our history, our wisdom, our connection to the universe itself. If you seek to change the course of the galaxy, you must first understand what you ask for." Syrah stepped closer, feeling the immense power radiating from the sphere. The temptation to reach out, to touch it and claim the knowledge it offered was overwhelming. But she hesitated. She knew that once she took this step, there would be no turning back. "You will see the galaxy's true nature," the Kordari figure continued. "But in doing so, you will awaken forces that have lain dormant for eons. The consequences will ripple across the stars, affecting not only the factions you seek to unify, but all of life. The balance you so desperately want to protect may unravel as quickly as it was restored. Sira swallowed, her mind racing. What choice did she have? The galaxy was on the brink of destruction, and the Kordari were offering the one thing that could change everything. But at what cost? "I accept," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "I'll bear whatever consequences come." The Kordari bowed their head. "Then you are ready. Prepare yourself." With that, the sphere of light surged forward, enveloping Sira in its radiant glow. For a moment, everything around her disappeared. There were no walls, no ruins, no temple, only the vast, infinite expanse of the universe itself. She was no longer standing on Kordar. She was floating in the void, surrounded by stars. The entire galaxy stretched out before her like a map of life and death. In an instant, she was shown everything. She saw the rise and fall of empires, the shifting of allegiances, the bloodshed of countless wars fought across the galaxy. She saw the beginnings of the Kordari, how they had once been the stewards of balance, their power reaching out to maintain harmony among the stars. She saw their retreat into isolation, their decision to remain silent as civilizations clashed and burned around them. And then she saw the truth, the terrible, undeniable truth. The galaxy was not merely on the brink of chaos, it was already doomed. The cycle of conflict, betrayal, and power struggles was not something that could be avoided. It was an inevitable part of the universe, a pattern that had existed since the beginning of time. Sira gasped as the vision faded, and she found herself back in the temple, her heart racing. The Kordari stood before her, their expression unreadable. "You now understand," the Kordari said. "The galaxy is not a fragile thing, easily shaped by the will of a single species or a single diplomat. It is a vast living entity, and the forces that guide it are beyond your comprehension. But you have seen the future, and you now know the cost of interfering with its course." Sira's mind was reeling, her body trembling from the weight of the knowledge she had just received. The galaxy was not simply at war. It was caught in a cycle, one that had to be broken, but at a cost that Sira was unsure she was prepared to pay. I understand," Sira said, her voice hoarse. "But I still have to try. The galaxy cannot continue like this." The Kordari nodded slowly. "And so you will. But know this. If you awaken the power of the Kordari, if you attempt to reshape the galaxy, you will not be able to undo what has been set in motion. The consequences will be far-reaching, and even you may not be able to bear the weight of what is to come." Sira stood tall, her resolve hardening. "I will bear it. For the galaxy, I will bear it." The Kordari stepped aside, revealing the path forward. "Then you must go, Ambassador. The galaxy awaits your choice, and with it, its fate." Sira Callan took a deep breath and turned toward the path that lay ahead. She had made her choice, and now there was no turning back. The awakening of the Kordari had only begun, and the galaxy would feel the tremors of their power for generations to come. But the first steps had been taken, and the storm had already begun to gather.